So I have a confession to make, and this is a confession related to the United States and the last presidential election. And the confession is I secretly wanted Trump to win, but not for any good reason, so to say. I assumed exactly what's happening is that if Trump got elected, he would accelerate the downfall of the United States. And it's pretty clear that's going to happen. And I was secretly kind of wanting that. But it's been about 3-4 weeks into his presidency, and my initial glee, my initial haha, they got what they deserved, has quickly worn off because despite how I feel the United States has mistreated and abused their position in the world, they are still a powerful nation, which means they can cause a lot of destruction, and there's still a lot of good people in the United States. And, it's one thing to say they got what they deserved and they voted for it and it was an election and they had the right to vote and to choose their leaders, unlike many other nations. But it's still, 50% of the population didn't want this person to be in charge. And that 50% or so have to now live with the consequences of another Trump presidency. And last time he was elected, I kind of thought it was a fluke. A lot of people thought it was kind of a fluke. And he caused a lot of destruction. He overturned Roe versus Wade. He put in a lot of Supreme Court justices. I think he appointed 3. I'd have to look it up. Definitely 2. And obviously those are appointments for life, which helped overturn laws. And sorry, there's some people working on the land behind me, and some ladies that are working our land tough as nails. I should actually go and help them. They're like in their 60s, 70s, hoeing the land by hand. Anyways, we were supposed to get a tractor out here. They said they were going to get a tractor out here. Anyways, that's besides the point. So because of Trump, there were certain laws overturned, and there was basically chaos for 4 years. And Biden came in, and Biden was a terrible president. But for the most part, things were somewhat stable. Yes, he himself, Biden, was gone. But the people that were running the show behind the scenes had some sense of stability. The economy recovered after the pandemic, and people were kind of getting on with their life. And in previous videos, I said that the president does not matter. And I still believe that the president does not matter. And the people that have real power are the ones that are allowing policies to go through, and they're the ones that are behind it. And these are powerful corporations and powerful businessmen. The people that aren't elected. A good example right now is Elon Musk is all of a sudden running around causing all kinds of chaos in the government, and he's a non-elected official. He's a billionaire, richest man in the world, and he's out here doing all kinds of crazy things. Elon Musk is an interesting case. He's one of those people that clearly he has a fragile ego, but that doesn't mean he's not wealthy, and it doesn't mean that he's not powerful in a sense. And now that he has Trump's ear and Trump seems happy to be working with him, he's going into places like USAID and trying to destroy it. He's looking at the Department of Labor and trying to destroy it. He's looking at the Department of Education, and essentially all these people that have been appointed by the president have been mandated to gut these programs and try to rebuild it in an image that suits them. And a lot of people would say, well, why would the rich, powerful people want this to happen? And I think what happened, and this is just my personal theory, it's probably wrong. Most of my theories are wrong. But I think what happened is the first Trump election, the first time he got elected as president, people were generally surprised. They also tried to control him. They tried to stop him from doing his most damage and kind of the worst things. And they realized that Trump is not exactly intelligent. He just has beliefs, and he's also bold enough to act on them with executive orders. So the first Trump administration, I think, was all about controlling him, the powers that be. And like I said, the presidents don't really have that much power, but they were attempting to control him. When they saw he was going to win again for his second term, they said this can't happen. So they devised a way to get Biden into office. And the reason they wanted Biden in office was they wanted a period of time to enact what is now happening. And what is now happening, and I think what happened in Biden's term, was all the rich people went and bought assets. Asset prices were skyrocketing. This is why they were claiming Biden's economy was so great. Is because the rich people went and bought assets. And I think what they want is for Trump to destroy the United States in its current form in order to wipe out the U.S. debt. The U.S. debt is too high. And the only way you can reset that is if you wipe it out in some way. And I think the next 4 years will be most likely Trump destroying everything he can, which will allow for the powers that be to come in with a new form of government, with a new form of democracy, and with potentially a new balance, so to say. If you have a lot of global economic recession, you can wipe out a lot of your debt, right? You can go around the world and you can tell countries that hold U.S. debt, and also, U.S. debt holders in terms of treasury bonds, you can kind of wipe those out. And if you are the rich and powerful who hold all the assets, you won't be affected by it. The worst thing that you want to be holding is money, because when the money collapses, then you collapse with it. So all the rich people for the last 4 years went around and bought up assets. You can see this in farmland specifically. And again, tangible assets. We're not talking about stocks. We're talking about tangible assets. And tangible assets are things like land and houses. We see all these corporations buying up all the houses. People saying, why are there no houses? It's, well, because somebody's buying them up. And why would you want a house when you could invest in other things that would have a higher return? Well, if you know that the house is going to be worth a lot more in 5-10 years once the U.S. economy resets, whatever that is, it would be more valuable to have the asset, right? People are buying gold, people are buying land, people are buying anything that's tangible, and they're also buying stocks because they expect to dump those off. Probably the next 2 years, the stock market will go crazy, and it'll be all of the investments that these rich people have bought. They'll be offloading it onto poor people and middle class people, because they'll say, look, houses are unaffordable, which they are, and if you want to get ahead, you have to invest in the stock market. That's the only place that somebody with a couple $1,000s can invest in and hope to have some sort of return. And so, middle class people will buy into that. And as they buy into that, this will be the rich people offloading their assets, and those rich people will be buying tangible assets, offloading their stocks and bonds, anything that could be worthless at some point in the future. Now, this is just a theory. Again, it's probably wrong, but I think that the United States is in for a really tough time with Donald Trump, because I feel like there will be very little resistance to what he's doing, because the powers that be don't care to resist him. And you can see that already. There's lots of things that he's already signed into executive order, and the Democratic Party, it's the same coin. It's a different side of the same coin, controlled by the rich people. They're not pushing back as hard as I would expect, trying to stop what he's doing. They have very little defense, and the candidate that they even brought forward to try and run against him was a candidate that would never win. I was talking to my sister, and I was saying Harris was not going to win. Like, she just didn't have the support. And my sister was fully thinking that she was going to win and that we're going to have our first female president. And I was saying if Hillary, who actually had decent support, couldn't beat Trump, there was no way that Harris was going to beat Trump based on a host of things, including her gender and her race. And despite that, people still thought she was going to win. And I say, I don't think the Democratic Party is that stupid. I don't think that they're that dumb to think that she had a real chance. So somebody said we're going to give her a shot, knowing that she would lose. And essentially that was the plan. Somebody said we want Trump back in power, and Trump is going to do what we need and want from him. It's starting to rain. And what we need and want from him is to go in and destroy a lot of the systems that are currently in place so that the next group of people can come in and rebuild them. And rebuild them into something that is in their design and what they want. You know, a lot of people think that Trump is going to be the one redesigning the government. He can barely put together a tweet, let alone a plan for tomorrow. He's not the one that actually is going to be rebuilding the government. He's the wrecking ball that's coming in now. And they saw that in the first term when they tried to stop him. And they tried, hey, he's going to wreck everything. We can't have this happen. Now I think they're letting him in and saying, actually, if he destroys everything, we can come back in after we dispose of him or after he's gone, because he only has 4 years. If you have a peaceful transfer of power, he'll be gone. And then the next guy will come in and have the ability to rebuild it in the image that they want, whatever it is, which means less corporate taxes, less taxes on the wealthy, less government aid to programs that they don't see as beneficial. A lot of what Trump's doing, but if they redesign it and they rebuild it, it'll be something that is a shell of what it currently is, and will give them the ability to reset a lot of these programs and a lot of these policies that they don't necessarily agree with. So I think they're using Trump as a wrecking ball, and I secretly kind of wanted that at the beginning, because I kind of saw that and I was like, he's going to come in and he's just going to be himself, which will cause a ton of problems for the United States. And that will allow for other more reasonable actors, possibly like China, to step into some of the roles that are going to be vacant as the United States pulls back and starts to dismantle things like U.S. aid. Well, these programs are extremely useful to the United States if you understand what they actually are. It's soft power. And that's one thing that China has been lacking for a long time. I mean, when I was working in the media, China's soft power was laughable, to be honest. And it was something they understood, is that they didn't have the same strength that the United States has when it comes to soft power in terms of movies and aid and just the culture, everything that encompasses, you know, the United States soft power. China has struggled to do that. They've struggled to develop those same avenues and those same soft power techniques and I guess just that same soft power. And so I was at the beginning thinking, hey, great, as the United States steps back, maybe China can step in and take over some of these roles. And I still hope that China will do that. But it was very one-sided at the beginning when I was sort of excited to see what comes from this presidency, because I assume it won't be anything good. And the one-sidedness of it was that I was, you know, excited for the destruction, which I think a lot of people were, and that's why they voted for him, because they were hoping for change. But the other side of that is a lot of people are going to get hurt in this process. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. A lot of people are going to lose funding and aid, which they relied upon for their livelihoods and for their, you know, just to be alive, literally. And so when programs like U.S. aid is shut down, which it effectively is, that aid that was going to all these different countries was not aid. It was soft power. It was leverage over those countries, which now the United States will lose, essentially. Because if you have billions of dollars that you're sending to lots of countries, which they do, they send billions of dollars to many different countries, and you can threaten to cut off that aid, you have power over that country. Because a lot of that money doesn't even get to the people it's intended to. I'd say, you can track it, and this is what the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon Musk is trying to expose. He's trying to say that a lot of this money that is supposed to be going to AIDS research or food relief or blah, 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 wherever it's supposed to go, isn't actually making it there. And I say that's by design. That's intentional. Because what the United States is buying with this aid is support or silence, right? So the United States knows that most of it gets pocketed by corrupt officials, and they are fine with that because those corrupt officials won't go against the United States, because when the United States comes in and says, hey, we need you to vote in the UN on something, or we need you to, pressure your corporations to allow for, cheaper oil exports or whatever it is that they're trying to get, those government officials know that if they don't, then the aid is cut and their bribes are cut. This is how soft power works. This is corruption and bribery. This is what it is, and it benefits the United States as much as it benefits any other country that's playing this game. China's been doing this, and the United States has been calling China out on this type of stuff for years, and China does it just as much as any other country that has the ability to do it. They go into other countries and they offer loans, or they offer aid, or they offer something that that country wants in order to get leverage. And they know that a lot of the funding for whether it's a loan or whether it's aid ends up in officials' hands, right? This is how you have officials in other countries who are multimillionaires or even billionaires, and you say, how is their country so poor, but their leaders have, 3 mansions and, 20 yachts and whatever they're buying with their money, right? And even when their houses get raided, they're like, how do they have, $20 million in cash stuffed in their walls? Or how do they have, 2 tons of gold or whatever it is that they have stashed in safes and houses and stuff? I mean, we just saw that with, Assad, right? They were down in his bunkers, and they're like, how do you have all this stuff? And it's like, well, because people are sending him aid or sending him money, and then he stashes it. It's supposed to go to, food security or whatever, and this is how it works. So cutting U.S. aid is such a joke because they don't even understand what it does. Like, all the anti-China propaganda and anti-Russia propaganda is funded through these programs, and they don't even understand the point of these programs. And so I think the United States is in for a hard time under Trump because this is what they've decided. The powers that be, for whatever reason, have decided that Trump's going to be in, and he's going to destroy a lot of stuff, and then they can redesign it, right? Because if Trump comes in with a crazy tariff, they can come back with a less crazy tariff, and people will accept it, right? If you say, I'm going to tax you 100%, and everybody says, 100% is crazy, and then you come back and say, well, all right, I'm going to make it 35%, people are like, oh, that seems more reasonable. It's kind of that tactic of going really, really hard and threatening kind of the most extreme, only to come back to something that nobody would have ever accepted if you started with that. If you start with 35%, people will say that's insane. And then you can maybe get it back to 15. But if you start with 100%, you can come back to 35, and people will be like, well, all right, at least it's not 100%. And so I think Trump will destroy a lot of stuff in the next 4 years. And I was kind of on board at the beginning until I'm actually seeing it. And I realized that a lot of people are going to get hurt. And, it is unfortunate that a lot of people were bamboozled and lied to and believed it. But I also understand why. There's a lot of people in the United States who want change. They understand the system is failing, and they have no recourse other than electing a wrecking ball in hoping that once the dust settles, things will be better. But that's usually not how it works. So it'll be interesting what happens in the next 4 years. I hope that when it's all said and done, there's enough of a country left that there can be peaceful transfer of power to whatever comes after it. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not living there, but I do have family members, and I do have some people that I know, some friends, and so I feel for them because most of them didn't want this. And even though secretly I kind of was like, haha, they're going to get what they deserve, I also don't want anybody to suffer. I mean, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, I've always said that I think that the United States has great potential if it just had good leadership and actually cared about its people and cared about the world. And I've always said that China and the United States could work together if leaders on both sides were willing to. But unfortunately, there's no appetite for that, especially from the American side right now. And so we'll see what happens in the next 4 years. Maybe something will come out of it. Maybe people will sober up and realize this was not what they actually wanted, and then people can start to rebuild in a positive way. But what I'm afraid is that it'll be rebuilt in a negative way. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is my crazy rambling today just way off topic and you actually think that I'm overreacting? Leave a comment below. I do like to read them and hear your guys' opinion. And I will see you in the next video.